we're cowering in our houses and homes, and people are behind 9 masks. Want to bring on Dr. Harvey Risch from we used to be one of the great institutions in this country, Yale University. So, Doctor, help us. I can say that because I went to your competitor up the road, and that's another disaster right now. Well, because we're going to get into it. You're a man, and here's what I think people admire you so much. You're a medical professional. You're a doctor. Your whole life is built around the search for truth, the search for evidence. Data-based, science-based, evidence-based. This is what you are. You've dedicated your life to that, and you're one of the first people, I think, to come out from a prestigious university and say, I don't understand what's going on here, but it's not data, it's not evidence-based. So you just heard Fauci up there with the about just the vaccines. And I think that DeSantis is saying, and people are saying, hey, if you get the vaccine, can you take a mask or what exactly is the vaccine? What is it doing? And then how does that work into the calculation of herd immunity? The whole Jim Jordan thing the other day was, if you've had the virus before and you've got antibodies, does that add in the calculation of the vaccine, and where does it all go? So I want you to just run with it. Tell us, you call it the bait and switch on the vaccines. Where do you think we stand on these vaccines right now, and why do you call it a bait and switch?
Good morning, Steve. So I think that the American public has been sold on the vaccines by the research that shows that they reduce the infection of mild to moderate symptomatic infection by somewhere between 60 and 90%, depending upon age and vaccine and so on. And that is pretty good performance for an individual who wants to take a vaccine to protect themselves. However, that's not the measure that the Public Health Infrastructure Administration and Dr. Fauci are using to look at the efficacy of the vaccines. They're looking at, do the vaccines prevent the spread of the infection? And for that, the drug company, the vaccine companies provided no information. We have to look at when the vaccines were actually used, and the best place for that so far has been the mass rollout in Israel, where the Pfizer vaccine was given to more than half the population now. And in Israel, the studies there showed that it reduces the spread of the infection by somewhere around 50 to 60%. So that contributes to herd immunity, but it's not an overnight shutting off of the spread. It's a slow and continuing benefit to the society to do that, but it's totally different than each individual's protection, say, of 90%. And so for that reason, giving the individuals a vaccine that they think is going to free them up from all restrictions in the society is not true, because what they're really doing is getting a vaccine that only cuts the transmission by a half. And in fact, we even know this now because clinicians have been telling me that more than half of the new COVID cases that they're seeing to treat are people who've been vaccinated. And what this means is that the vaccines are having breakthrough cases.
Whoa. Slow down. Hit rewind. Just give me that again.
Somewhat more than half, so they've estimated at 60% of the new cases that they're treating, new COVID cases, have been people who've been vaccinated.
So, Dr. Risch, just so I understand, Dr. Fauci, the reason they had him on Meet the Press, right, which is kind of the railhead of the conventional thinking every Sunday morning, they had him on with Chuck Todd to essentially make the case, because now you have a huge part of the country, right? I forget, it's a huge percentage of Republicans, Trump voters, but it's now because of the J&J situation. You're seeing, I think they had 4,000 places or 4,000 reservations and 15 people showed up or something like this. They now have a massive problem. So Fauci's now put forward again to sell this. Why didn't he just tell Chuck Todd exactly what you told us in 2 minutes on the War Room when he had opportunity? Why would he just not lay that out as what the facts are?
Well, I think they don't understand that people have an idea of what social and civic responsibility is. They're afraid that if you say this vaccine is only 50 or 60% effective for what we consider important, then people aren't going to take the vaccine. They're going to say, well, that's not very much. I'd rather not take an unknown risk and, and take my chances, especially for low risk people who, don't need the vaccine for their own benefit. They, whether it's a societal benefit is what we're really trying to establish here. So I think they're afraid that if they don't maximize the message, that people are just not going to take the vaccine in the first place.
But why has he had so many opportunities when people talk about masks and everything like that to basically, I've never heard come across, am I incorrect? Raheem, jump in here, Captain Ben. Has Dr. Fauci ever said it's only 50% effective in the spread? Or has he ever said that? Doctor, I know you follow this closely. Have you ever heard him make the case that you just made?
I have not
Dr.
heard him
Risch?
say that. I have not heard him say that. I think that this is an empirical question. You have to measure it by numbers. The numbers in Israel were, I think, like 500,000 people that they had studied, compared to an equal number of people who hadn't yet been vaccinated. And so they demonstrated it. And in fact, if you look at the new infections in Israel over the last month, you'll see that they've declined strongly. They're very down into the single and two-digit numbers compared to
Dr. Russell came back up because this is kind of bombshell stuff, right? Raheem, you guys have done such an amazing job over there at the National Pulse and Captain Bannon. What